All right, so just making sure I'm live everywhere, and yeah, I think we're about there. Live on the Entrepreneur Business Group, live on Facebook, live on YouTube, and about to be live on Instagram as well. So thanks everyone for joining in. I'm just checking everything's rolling. It looks like we are. So hi everyone on Instagram. Hi everyone in the Entrepreneur Business Group on Facebook. Hi everyone else on Facebook who's not in the Entrepreneur Business Group. And hi also if you're on YouTube. So we've got 4 streams on at the moment. It's like I'm adding a new stream each week. That might be quite good fun, actually. It was only 3 last time, and it's 4 this week. Anyway, thanks so much, everyone, for joining in. Welcome to the wonderful part of Monday for me, and hopefully for you guys too, which is the Startup Business Q&A. This is episode 82. Thanks, everyone who's joining in on Instagram, jumping in right here. Thanks, everyone who's joining in on Facebook in the Entrepreneur Business Group. Pleasure to be here today. And also those of you, of course, who are jumping in just through Facebook or YouTube. If you have any questions for me on Startup Business, chuck them in the comments and let's get started. And I'll be jumping around as I go. But thanks in advance for those who sent the questions. I wanted to start with a really interesting question that I was sent only a little bit earlier today from a regular, actually, a guy who's always firing great questions over, someone called Daniel Nunes. Forgive me while I set up all these different these different windows because I've got so many streams on. And Daniel Nunes actually shared a post with a guy from a guy called Ash Davidson. So I wanted to start with him. So a guy called Ash Davidson, great respect to you, man. Really great post. And I want to read this out because I think it's an interesting thing. It's highly relevant here. So hi, everyone who's joining in, as loads of you jumping in on Instagram. Look, there's a really interesting book that if you haven't read it and you're in marketing, I think you should. And it's called All Marketers Are Liars. Or Marketers Are Liars, rather, by Seth Godin. He's one of my top authors or favorite authors. It's interesting, this book, because it talks about storytelling. And if you understand anything about human psychology, you'll understand that it's essential to make sure your storytelling is on point. The issue is, of course, for many, is that the more you get into understanding the marketing world, the more trouble you see because you can see what people are playing at. You know, your bullshit radar is way higher than the average person's because you know the techniques they're trying. So there's this worry about people lying and storytelling. I'm going to read this post out because I think it's absolutely fantastic. Just want to check I've got all streams on point right now. I think I have. So let's start off. So this post, there we go. Just checking I've got them all in. This is brilliant fun having so many here. So there we go. So look, he says, this whole marketer telling stories trait is doing my head in. Most people in the marketers are either homeless. By the way, thumbs up if any of you believe this is true or you've seen this before. Most people in the marketing are either homeless at one point in their life, had $10 when they arrived in the country on the back of a lorry. I think that was a bit of a joke one, had a life-threatening injury or were bankrupt at one point in their life. If you read Seth Godin's book about Marketers Are Liars, they just tell stories. They've missed the memo about the story to make the dream believable, making the brand magical, like Disney and how Apple sell their hardware. What you can't see is that Ash Davidson, who posts this comment, also put a picture of a guy, it's kind of a meme picture saying, I'm out. I think I get it. You know, he's fed up of the whole rags to riches thing. And there's a saying which is marketers ruin everything. And what you find is if there's something that works a bit, it may be drop shipping or the t-shirt craze. Everyone's selling t-shirts about 18 months ago, or you know, whatever it might be. Marketers jump in, they overdo it, and then of course it kind of everyone's jumping in, and it kind of ruins it. And I think what you have here is, if you look back to like back end of 2014. You really started seeing it coming about, and through 2015, certainly this whole, you know, I started with nothing. I had $10 in my bank account. I was homeless and destitute, and there was this one thing that happened, and it made me, you know, see things in a different world, in a different way. Look at me then, look at me now. And this is kind of the premise for, or rather the structure of most marketing kind of videos and things like that that you saw across the last few years. And look, what you've got to understand is that human beings
really relate to stories. If you just say, here's how I did this, it doesn't always work so well. It's important to make sure there are stories in there. So we've got to appreciate that human beings as an animal require some level of storytelling. Otherwise, they won't feel like there's that kind of connection. In addition to that, what you've got to have is some more detail. It's got to feel like something that was real. And if anyone of you have seen a classic film by Quentin Tarantino, who of course did Pulp Fiction, there's a film called Reservoir Dogs, and there's a scene in it where where an undercover cop who is in a gang, a bunch of gangsters, he's rehearsing or practicing this story. Thumbs up if you've seen this, by the way. Or am I talking like, this is like 20 odd years ago this thing came out. But basically this guy's rehearsing this story that he can tell the gangsters so he can, you know, make out like he was, you know, he's got some kind of crazy war story from his gangster past. Of course, it was all completely fabricated. But the point is that he's practicing and practicing it. And his boss or whoever was like, look, you've got to believe this. You've got to be able to deliver this so well that people realize or rather think that this is absolutely true. And the devil's in the detail, you know, all the detail there made it feel real. So much so, the reason why I bring this up is that Quentin Tarantino then cut to kind of footage or a scene of this guy actually living this story of it actually happening, and that was simply all fabricated, but it is so much belief in it that it made them feel like it was true. And of course it had that knock-on effect that other gangsters believed in it as well. And the point here is, if stories feel real because of detail and all those, you know, talking about the kind of weather it was that day and what you just had for lunch, all the detail makes it feel real. Even if it is real, it gives it that extra edge, and that's what's essential there. So I do feel that storytelling is a compelling way of getting something across to people. Hey, everyone on Instagram. Thanks so much, everyone who's jumping in saying hi there. That's great for you to be joining on the live stream. But where I'm going with this is that if you are storytelling, you've got to understand that, or let me rephrase it actually, you've got to understand that if you storytell, you are likely to resonate more with a human being. What you've got to understand, this is kind of a reaction to Ash's post here, is that the more you are into marketing, the more you will understand the mechanisms and stories and the structures that are, or the way it's done, and that will probably wind you up a bit. And I think I get his point. You know, it gets a bit boring when every single advert going through your stream is the same old thing. You haven't a clue who I am. I was bored in my 9-to-5 job and I discovered this one trick that made me £100,000 in a year. If you sign up to my webinar, you can do it. I think it's interesting though that, you know, you don't normally hear someone who says something like, I was actually doing quite well for myself. Everything was fine. I just wanted to do it slightly differently. So I felt like starting a business and it seemed to have gone quite well. Here's some of the things I've done. I feel that this is probably the new wave, though, of things that come through. The no BS approach to marketing is like your post-revisionist approach, if you like. So coming soon, or more of it, I think it will be, if it's not already started, actually, is an aversion to that marketing spiel of, oh, woe is me. It was only 18 months ago. I had no money. But the thing is, they're trying to target, and probably not you, they're probably trying to target those people who are stuck in a rut and who are thinking, I just need a way out. And then, of course, the average person who maybe is having trouble will fall for it in their eyes. And that's the idea. That's the general approach. But most of the time, this kind of thing doesn't work so well. And certainly across more time, it won't get more effective. It will get less effective. For me, I strongly feel that as long as I can put out content that's valuable to the right people, so you guys, the target audience, for instance, it is essential to make sure I focus on that and share what I'm doing in my world. I feel, and this is my view on the direction or the way you should go, and Daniel, thank you for sharing this. He asked my opinion on it, so this is it. I feel the way to go is to share your world as a practitioner. Okay, sure, tell the story, give some background on where you came from. I mean, look at me. I came from, I wasn't privileged, relatively speaking, to people who are kind of seen as rich kids. But I wasn't destitute and poor. You know, we had a TV and things like that. What I do feel it's worth saying is, you know, I do feel genuinely that I learned a lot from an upbringing with a single mum and 3 of us children. We didn't have loads of money. I couldn't get, in 1988, there was not a chance in hell that I would be wearing Air Max, now Air Max Classics, of course, when everyone else was wearing Nikes, because we didn't have the money for it. There was no way I was going to get a Sega Mega Drive or any of those kind of consoles through the years. We just didn't have the cash for it. But did we occasionally go to McDonald's? Did we go to the cinema? Of course we did. So I was kind of in the middle. Did I drop out of college? No, I went to university. Did I end up in a load of debt as a result? Yeah, but then I worked and paid it all off. I actually had a really well-paid job in the city. And I think what people misunderstand when they are starting out in marketing is, if you are giving a story that is focusing on the woe is me sob story thing and then how you made it big, it's going to get a bit boring soon, if not already. Far better is to not necessarily focus on all the shit you went through, but recognize that it's about having a story that feels real. That's what matters. Of course, you need to resonate to a degree to your friends. I've been on a yacht in Antibes, which is the French Riviera. This is where people like Roman Abramovich and very rich people will, you know, Steve Jobs had a yacht moored there and things like that. That's not necessarily going to be helpful for startup business owners who are interested in resonating with me. But that's one instance in my life. I haven't spent my life in that kind of space. What we really need to understand is when you storytell, make it authentic, make it real, share what you actually went through, share pain, but don't make up stuff. And obviously, but also don't go too much into the whole everything was wrong and my life was collapsing and no one believed me, this kind of thing, because it will get boring. I think if not now, then in the next couple of years, it will really start hacking people off. By being a practitioner, as in doing the business and then sharing that in the moment as well, I think that you're going to get a lot of people interested. For instance, tomorrow I'm in London with a client, and straight after in fact, when I'm going there, I'll probably be shooting some Instagram stories. When I'm on my way out, I'll probably be doing the same as well to share what I actually did that day with a multi-million-pound company. I feel that's a great way of building trust, because people can say, he's actually there doing it, and he's sharing things that have happened that day. And it feels, therefore, a little bit more like, you know what, probably this guy's telling some truth and he's actually doing it rather than making up some nonsense. But I feel that in response here to Ash Davidson's approach, you kind of have to understand that people need to be able to relate to you. So with the whole story, you need to show where you were and the where you came from. Make that story part of your world, weave that thread in. I agree, you don't want to ham it up. I only had $10 to my name, I was homeless and things like that. It's like, you know, that shouldn't be the main thrust of your message. It should be value and practical action and steps and things that people can do. It's great to give some background. Mine was, I went to university, I got a great job in London, but I got to a point where it was very stressful. Not because I couldn't get a job and had no money. It's because I was working so much in my 9 to 5, I had to stop. It was just killing me because it wasn't the kind of world I wanted to be in. I was giving my soul to the job. I'm happy to give my soul to the job if it's something I'm desperately passionate about, which is why I pivoted, quit the 9 to 5 and built my thing. And that's what made it exciting, because I'm now doing my own, kind of working my own world. So I'm fascinated by this. In the next couple of years, it will pivot again, it will change, but marketing is such an interesting subject because you can't teach it in a class and expect it to be relevant in 5 years. It is constantly evolving, and storytelling and focusing on the rags to riches approach is a very interesting thing to do. I feel that from a sales perspective, because I've been selling, you know, and working with sales for well over 15, 16 years now, that it's interesting to make it a little bit more relatable nowadays. If you talk about how you had $13 to your name, and then look at me now 12 months later, I've got a Lamborghini. Some people may think, I want to be like that, but unless you're very good at laying out what the steps were, it's probably better to kind of come down slightly and say, look, I'm no longer doing that particular job, or I've now got this particular wealth, and that might be quite a bit more compelling. Think about your audience, think about what they want to hear, but think about what's becoming deeply cliche right now. That's a very interesting way of looking at it. So I hope that helps. Thumbs up if that makes sense. Do you believe this? I mean, do you feel the same? You bought into the same approaches or kind of vibe as I am? Let's see if you've got any questions here. If I'm looking over on one of the Facebook streams I've got here, I'm interested in seeing what you have to say. Venu, you've added, it's already gotten boring. I love your insights on this. I really think it has. Carolina, you've added, honesty is the best policy, whatever is your story. You're seeing it more and more as well. I totally feel this. Marketing, there's a lot. I'm not saying that everyone who said they had a terrible childhood or teenager years or in the last few years had a really tough time. I'm not saying that they're lying. What I'm saying is that I think that people are getting bored by it. And I think bending the truth or talking as though that was your entire world, it's just not going to be believable anymore, because the crowd and the majority of the noise is going to be people having the same kind of story. And if everyone seems to be having the same kind of story, then possibly you're not going to stand out as much. 6 years ago, if I shared an advert like that on YouTube or Facebook, I would probably smash it. But now it's like, oh God, you know, you must have that reaction, surely. When you see another guy, it's like, never seen the guy in my life. He's targeting me as cold traffic with his advert because he knows I'm into certain particular things. And so here we go again. It's the 2 minutes on how he had nothing, and it doesn't really work. Do something better to build a connection. Tell a joke even. Share something interesting. Ask a fascinating question rather than just focusing on things like, oh, look how bad things could have been. Okay, so I hope that helps. I'm really keen on your reaction to it. Any other question? Ajani, yeah, absolutely. Richard, it's bullshit. I like that. Christine, thanks for joining in. Everyone else, look, thanks so much for jumping on here on Facebook, on YouTube, in the Entrepreneur Business Group, and in and on Instagram stories as well. Just have a notice for you. About a week or so ago, I launched a premium group on Slack. If you've not checked it out, try slack.com. It's on Slack, and it's a premium group for entrepreneurs and business owners. And rather than me just sharing my views on things, it's actually forum based. So it's a community. And the idea is that you do one of two things, or ideally both of these things. One thing you do is you share great value and help people who need things. So they're asking questions about social media, about business, or if they need some advice on something. And you also ask questions yourself as well. So, hey, I need help with this. It's a great idea. It's working so well. In probably about 10 days already, it started to really spin up. We've already got 50 people in there. If you're interested in jumping into this premium group, send me a DM and I'll send you the access link. And there's a trial for free for a week to test it out and jump in and see what you think of it. But I really strongly suggest you join this, because you know, I can share my opinions on things and my content, and of course you guys can comment, but I love the idea of a community of great people genuinely out for each other and helping each other win. So just DM me if you're keen on that. Let's get into a couple more questions. If you have any questions, let me know. But otherwise, Daniel, that's a great one. Thanks for sharing that. You also asked another question. When determining the thing, how do you filter through and prioritize all the things we want to do into attainable goals versus just wasting time daydreaming? So the idea of the thing, that comes from my Monetize You course. That's on the richardmoore.com. And the idea is that it's leveraging knowledge you already have and generating an income from helping people with it. So the thing is the passion or the thing you're going to work on. Maybe it's, teaching people to play the guitar. Maybe it's sharing ideas on Forex trading. Perhaps it's I'm a guru of getting traction with YouTube videos. I'm going to share that, for instance. Whatever it is that I'm good at, Maybe I'm just good at playing video games, so I'm going to stream that. Whatever your thing is, what you're asking here, Daniel, is how do you filter through and prioritize the things we want to do into attainable goals versus just wasting time daydreaming? I think that it's essential to look at your thing, or rather when you're determining your thing, and not overthink it too much. I'm a strong believer, because I did it a number of times, on just starting that's with something that feels about right and then going from there. You may feel that's insane because you should be doing the thing you want to do. But the problem is, and I'll say this to all of you, the majority of people I encounter are paralyzed, as in they don't take action against things that they should be doing, or trying to do, or taking action against passions and trying out things because they're scared of picking the wrong thing. And that's crazy, in my opinion. What should be done instead is you look at something that you probably are fairly keen on. Literally, you should try it today if you've not done this already. Take 2 minutes, turn your phone off, turn the lights off, so literally no stimulus at all, and take 2 minutes and just keep saying to yourself, if I could do anything, what would it be? If I could do anything, what would it be? And you know if it's the right thing-ish, because as you're thinking about it, you'll start picturing it and you start playing it out yourself, and you start thinking, actually, that's a really great thing. I would like doing that. What would it look like if I was doing it at a high level? And it could be anything, but in that quiet moment, it'll be something you naturally gravitate towards. It could be bakery. Like literally right now, in another part of my house, my wife, who has a brand new kitchen, is running a cake decorating course because she's built her own bakery last year. She started her own business, and the people have turned up, she's marketed to them, and she's running a course. She used to be a lawyer, but she's doing this because it's like, but that's what I love doing. She never ever ran into the living room in the middle of the evening at like midnight saying, I've just read this great thing about the law. I can't wait to practice on Monday. What she would always do she would want to switch off at the end of the day. But now she's skipping in saying, look at this new technique I've learned, or she's gravitating towards a YouTube video to learn some new ideas. She can't get enough. She's obsessing about it in the right way. That's about picking the right thing. Now, when I started my first business, I jumped in on Taekwondo because I've been doing it for like 12 years or so. And I thought, let's start a school. And I almost straight away realized it wasn't quite the thing I really wanted to do. It's great fun. It was a passion. I was quite good at it. And I still run it. I'm teaching tonight, for instance, but it became a case of actually, it's not the Taekwondo. But the Taekwondo helped me understand that it really was consulting that I was really into. And by consulting, I mean helping people build their startups. Because I was building my own, I thought, God, this is fascinating. I love the thrill of getting the new customers in and building this and scaling it. And in any moment, I was gravitating towards how to improve the business as opposed to how to learn more about Taekwondo. And it just went to show that I was more interested in this slightly different thing. So what I'm saying here is don't overthink it. Jump in on something that's probably about right, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And you'll soon pivot from there. You'll soon say, do you know what? I just want to do this a bit more, but at least I've got that springboard. And you may even do what I do, which is say, do you know what? I'm not going to kill the Taekwondo school. I'm just going to streamline it, and I'll run it as a hobby that pays it for itself, and that will be great fun. So it's not the main thing I do. It takes up probably, in terms of admin, it probably takes on average 10 minutes in a week. Everything's so automated. You heard about the 4-hour work week from Tim Ferriss. This is like the 10-minute work week, this one. But that business kind of runs itself, and that's it because everything is all set up. So, it didn't have to be that I only waited and started something when it was absolutely the right thing to do, because I would never have started, And I think that's what's important here. So you need to not overthink. There's no structure here, Daniel. It's taking a couple of minutes in the quiet and saying to yourself, what is it I want to do? And then start. Be resilient. Recognize that things won't work out and maybe you're not quite in the mood for certain things. But after a while, if something's working out, if it's the thing you want to do. And if it's not, well, then you can pivot and you can say, do you know what? I've got this clarity of thought. It's actually more this I want to do, and you go. But what you mustn't do is jump around too much. There's a bit of a balance there that's required. Any other questions coming in, let me know. I'm just going to keep my eye on the Facebook group because you guys tend to always have good things to ask.
But Kerry Babbage, I think you just joined. I think I saw you on there. Thanks so much for coming in now. And let's have a look at your question, which is, what are the best techniques to close the deal? So I'm actually going to be with a business tomorrow where we're focusing specifically on that. And some of them are selling orders for a couple of $1,000. Some are selling orders for, you know, $30,000, $60,000. So we're looking at different things here. The best techniques to close the deal are often the same techniques each time. And over and above everything, when it comes to closing any sale with anyone ever, you need trust. You need an element of trust. It might not be that deep, depending on what you're buying, what you're selling, but really it has to be there. If there isn't any trust, the greatest claims in the world won't be believed, and so you won't get a sale. That's why if you go check your spam inbox, don't do it now, we'll do it after this. But if you check your spam inbox in your Outlook or whatever, you'll see loads of attempts to get you to part with, say, $5,000 because you've won some mystical lottery. It's all made up stuff. You don't trust it. I mean, it's obviously something you want, but it's not true. You just don't believe it. And if you did, you'd be all over it. And of course, history has shown us that those things are scams, and so you leave them alone. So trust wins every day. When it comes to closing the deal, you need to use your intuition on this point. If you don't feel that the person you're speaking to isn't comfortable with you right now, you need to be very, very aware that actually it's essential to make sure you're building more connection instead. So focus instead. It sounds crazy. I know you want the deal, but focus more on getting that person comfortable with you, wanting to open up, wanting to speak to you. And if you can do that, they'll be putty in your hands. You'll know when it's right to close someone because it will just feel good. That's the best time to close. Otherwise, if you're saying, so shall we do it? And they feel like they're under pressure, of course, there's a problem now, because that person's going to be saying, you know what, I'm not really in the right mood. I'm not quite there yet. And so you've destroyed your rapport a bit. And that's the other thing, you know, connection and trust and feeling comfortable with you comes from rapport building. Too many people hide behind the features of their product and to offset a lack of building rapport and a relationship and a connection. Most people are great at talking to people in real life, but maybe on the phone or something, they just kind of throw it all away and they go all cheesy or salesy. And it's far better to be a bit more effective on building rapport and connection with someone, almost like speed dating. You're trying to make a friend with them than anything else. If someone likes you, and of course there's that saying, people buy people, right? If someone likes you and they're bought into you, it's simple. They're just going to then be interested in what you have to say as well. So don't be cagey, don't be dodgy. Focus on being an open guy. You know, it makes such a difference, because then you've got people saying, actually, I really, you know, their subconscious is telling them, I feel comfortable with this person. So they let you in. They give you the benefit of the doubt. They want to hear you positively. Look at your friends and close family, the people who like you. If you have something to say, or if you need a favor, they tend to say yes. And it's because they're bought into you. So that comes first. Let me get to a bit more practical approach here, you know, Kerry. When it comes to the best techniques to close a deal, the best thing to do is not over talk. Just ask if they want to do it, or ask how they feel. Get an opinion. How does that sound? What do you think? A good we want to ask is, in principle, I mean, what do you think? As a concept, does it sound good to you? These kind of questions are good because it doesn't sound like you're trying to push them. It's very obvious you're just asking for their opinion. And it's essential because, you know, you're letting them in to talk a bit. Whatever answer they give you, it's great feedback. If they're positive, of course, what they're saying is, well done, you've done a good job of pitching me. If they're negative, it's not something to get wound up about. Their worldview right now is that you've not done a good enough job. So it's feedback. So it means you have to improve that. And as a result, you should be reacting and saying, okay, so I feel I had you at the start there, but I mean, where did I drop the ball? What are we missing here? Get into, be real, be honest with them. Ask questions you probably don't want to know the answer to, like, you know, what don't you like about the proposition? Okay, so that's essential. And I think the best closes
of deals, in my opinion. I've closed things that are dollars all the way up to my biggest ever deal was just under £100,000, so probably about $130 or $1,000 or so. And it was a very large fee for a large piece of business I've been working on for a long time. And it's always the same. It's a case of just saying, look, if I need these people to buy into me, I've just got to sound like I'm not trying to game them, you know? And so just be as normal as you can. Weird things happen to people when they move into a selling space. They start trying to say cheesy one-liners and then these power lines. And it's like, what is this? You know, this marketing speak they throw at people, it starts winding them up. Give the person you're pitching a little bit of respect, a little bit of credit for probably being an intelligent enough person. And if you're trying to give them some lines or game them, they're probably going to call you on your bullshit. And if they don't, they'll hold it in their head and they'll remember just not to buy you because they don't trust you enough. So you need to respond like that, okay? But it's all good feedback. If someone doesn't get or doesn't like what you have to offer, it's good feedback. You screwed it up. That's what it means. It means you need to improve it next time. Don't get irritated. It's you that's in control. So change it or improve it next time. That's the way to look at it, okay? Great question, Daniel. Sorry, Kerry, I hope that helps. But just be real, you know. You mustn't overthink it. But one mistake is to not ask for the deal. Really stupid. You know, if you get someone to a point where they're giving you noises like, actually, yeah, this sounds pretty good, I like this, then so would you like to do it? Isn't a difficult thing to ask. It's important to do that. I've just had a point here, Rainhad. I apologize, I can't quite read what your name is, but your country, England, have sent many people from there. I don't know what your question is or understand what your question is, but if you could elaborate, I'll happily answer that a little bit more. Let's look at one last question before we go. This is from Carolina Mankowski. How do you know when to hire your first employee for your business? What are some key situations when it's best to not run the business all on your own? My view is really simple. There's actually two parts to it. The view I have is the stuff you love to do in your business is the stuff you should get to do in your business, okay? And if there's too much stuff that you love to do in your business, pick the best of that best stuff and do that. In order to do that, if it requires you to hire someone, then that's what you need to do. So, and what you do is you imagine the whole list of all the jobs and tasks you could possibly have to do in your business. Perhaps at the top, it might be generate content. Perhaps at the top, it might be just kind of, it could be the charity that you run and getting in front of people on the ground to help them out, all the way down to, I don't know, make something up, maybe, you know, cleaning your desk at the end of the day. It might be that all the way through, you've got all of those tasks and things, and it's the stuff you don't want to do. Get someone to help you with that. Or the stuff you're no good at, that should sit at the bottom as well. Get people to help with that. So that, because your ultimate aim should be purely doing the stuff you're A, great at, and B, enjoy doing. And if you can just be focused on that, you're going to have a very happy life. I think that if you think about people who are kind of completely slammed in their jobs because they're taking on too much of their work, that this is my other point. The second point is that you should be thinking about when you can hire someone. And the answer really is as soon as is possible. I think it's a great error for small business owners to try and just get themselves a bit more money, as in they pay themselves just a bit more when they could eventually earn way more money by taking a hit, staying a bit broke, and spending a load of that money on someone to help them. It doesn't have to be full-time staff. I don't have a maid or a butler who lives here with me who does all my work. What I have is someone who pops in once a week to do my cleaning. They clean the house for us. You know, I don't have to have someone full-time. I have someone who's kind of freelance who does that. Same with a lot of other things. I have a guy who works with me on some of the back-end work on my website. He's not a kind of a live-in guy who is paid a full salary. He's only needed ad hoc, and so he's paid as such as well. And so it might be that your first hire is a freelance or someone in your ecosystem. It might be you don't even pay them. You give them some service in response. And I think that's really important. So just to answer your question, how do you know when to hire your first employee for your business? Well, You should be doing it when you feel like, okay, I've got quite a lot to do now. And simultaneously, I feel like I'm being taken away from the bits I love. You know, the things you really wanted to start that business for in the first place. And I'm not talking about money or wealth. I'm talking about like the things you want to do in it. It's being a practitioner of the creative arts. If you're a creative agency, if that's the bit you love doing, then that's the bit you should be doing most of. You know, if you can't do it because you have so many other things to do, that's the signal you need someone to come in and help you. Okay. If you can't get to that thing each day that you love because there are so many other things in the way, it's time. Okay. And when do you do it? It's as soon as you can. If it feels like it's time, you've just got to try and take people in as soon as you can. Which hire do you make? It's usually the best one. The best hire to make is the one that will save you more time or help you get more sales, for instance. So I would always focus, this is just me, but I would focus on sales. I feel I can sell, but to help me do it. Or I would get someone as maybe some kind of administrator or virtual assistant, because that helps me build a lot more time. The other question here, Carolina, what are some key situations when it's best not to run a business all on your own? I think some key situations are when you have clients that are buying things that are more of a service that you have to deliver on, as opposed to they're buying something that's automated instead, if that makes sense. So rather than someone say buying a course, they can, and it's closed or end to end, they'll buy it and it delivers and you're not required there. It's when you're constantly needed to. A great example is myself, actually. When I go into a client, say tomorrow, you know, that's a working day for them. From 9 o'clock till 6 o'clock, I will be with that client. I can't do 50 of them because there's not enough hours in the week, you see. So that are the moments where you got to say, okay, I need someone to take the strain. How can I kind of outsource things? Can I train someone up to take my place? That's the way to look at it. It's best not to run it all on your own if you're not enjoying the business and only the customers are winning. I'm not saying you should only always be skipping through meadows, but what I am saying is you need to recognize it's important to be practicing your actual craft that you enjoy. Otherwise, you're not getting much from it, and then you might well feel like you're back in a place where you don't really want to be. If you'd originally left, for instance, a job you didn't want to be in. Quite a few comments coming through here. Thanks very much. I don't quite understand some of these. I don't quite understand some of these questions, so I do apologize. But look, thanks so much, everyone who's jumped in on Instagram. I love you all. Thanks so much for following there. Thanks, everyone in the Entrepreneur Business Group. Thanks also on YouTube, and thanks also down on Facebook as well. It's been a real pleasure. Have a massive Monday. If you're interested in getting in touch with me about the premium group, I'm offering a free trial for a week. Send me a DM and I'll send you the link to it. Otherwise, enjoy the Monday. Have a massive week, and I'll catch up with you really soon. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks also for Daniel, Carolina, and Kerry, and also the post from Ash Davidson for your questions. And I'll catch you all soon. Best of wishes. I'll see you later. So let's end the stream there, and end the stream here.